Do women talk more than men? Proverbs and sayings in many languages express the view that women are always talking. Indeed, there is a Japanese character which consists of 3 instances of the character for the concept woman, and which translates as noisy. My favorite proverb, because it attributes not noise but rather power to the woman speaker, is this Chinese one. The tongue is the sword of a woman and she never lets it become rusty. So what are the facts? Do women dominate the talking time? Do men struggle to get a word in edgewise, as the stereotype suggests? Despite the widespread belief that women talk more than men, most of the available evidence suggests just the opposite. When women and men are together, it is the men who talk most. 2 Canadian researchers, Deborah James and Janice Drakic, reviewed 63 studies which examined the amount of talk used by American women and men in different contexts. Women talked more than men in only 2 studies. Why is the reality so different from the myth? To answer this question, we need to go beyond broad generalizations and look more carefully at the patterns identified. Although some teachers claim that boys are by nature more spirited and less disciplined, there is no evidence to suggest that males are biologically programmed to talk more than females. It is much more likely that the explanation involves social factors. One relevant clue is the fact that talk serves different functions in different contexts. Formal public talk is often aimed at informing people or persuading them to agree to a particular point of view, e.g., political speeches, television debates, radio interviews, public lectures, etc. Public talk is often undertaken by people who wish to claim or confirm some degree of public status. Effective talk in public and in the media can enhance your social status, as politicians and other public performers know well. Getting and holding the floor is regarded as desirable, and competition for the floor in such contexts is common. There is also some risk, of course, since a poor performance can be damaging. Classroom research suggests that more talk is associated with higher social status or power. Many studies have shown that teachers, regardless of their gender, tend to talk for about 2/3 of the available time. But the boys dominate the relatively small share of the talking time that remains for pupils. In this context, where talk is clearly valued, it appears that the person with most status has the right to talk most. The boys may therefore be asserting a claim to higher status than the girls by appropriating the majority of the time left for pupil talk. This interpretation will become more convincing when you look at how men and women behave at formal meetings and seminars. Evidence collected by American, British, and New Zealand researchers shows that men dominate the talking time in committee meetings, staff meetings, seminars, and task-oriented decision-making groups. If you are skeptical, use a stopwatch to time the amount of talk contributed by women and men at political and community meetings you attend. This explanation proposes that men talk more than women in public, formal contexts because they perceive participating and verbally contributing in such contexts as an activity which enhances their status, and men seem to be more concerned with asserting status and power than women are. By contrast, in more private contexts, talk usually serves interpersonal functions. The purpose of informal or intimate talk is not so much status enhancement as establishing or maintaining social contact with others, making social connections, developing and reinforcing friendships and intimate relationships. Interestingly, the few studies which have investigated informal talk have found that there are fewer differences in the amount contributed by women and men in these contexts, though men still talked more in nearly 1/3 of the informal studies reviewed by Deborah James and Janice Drakic. Women, it seems, are willing to talk more in relaxed social contexts, especially where the talk functions to develop and maintain social relationships. Overall, then, women seem to use talk to develop personal relationships and maintain family connections and friendships more often than to make claims to status or to directly influence others in public contexts. Of course, there are exceptions, as Margaret Thatcher demonstrates. But, until recently, many women seem not to have perceived themselves as appropriate contributors to public, formal talk.